G'day guys, it's Sunday and welcome to a much belated training report from yesterday's session at Princess Park. I wanted to do this yesterday, but by the time I got home, the day got away from me. I thought, let's put it up on Sunday. I really enjoyed it. Back at Princess Park. To get in there and have a look at the ground again and what they've done in regards to the surface. Looks absolutely pristine. So, yeah, the players would obviously really enjoy running around on that. Good turnout, like lots of fans. I'm not quite sure how many, but rough estimation, 4,000 maybe. Like it was a lot there. And they trained pretty much from 9 o'clock. They were warming up inside. You could see them when you walked in, the big warm-up area inside. And then they came out at around about 9, a little bit after 9, and pretty much trained solidly till 11:30, quarter to 12. And then, the process started in regards to getting over to the fans and signing autographs and all that type of stuff. It was a solid session. A lot of match type scenario. They had a couple of umpires there which ran that. We got to see a little bit in regards to the way we want to play, or the way, a lot of quick ball movement. Obviously going to be important this year, and that 45 kick in board. Thought the skill, I'm very critical of the skills generally of our team at training sessions at times, and a little bit, I don't know, a little bit clumsy, and I thought the skills were really good, particularly by foot. So that was probably the big positive from my point of view, because I have been pretty critical of our kicking skills, but I thought for the most part they were impressive. I'm not to say that there weren't turnovers and stuff, but the kicking skills were pretty good. And the boys, they train. Look, this is professional organisation, and I've mentioned this every bloody time I do these reports. When you go and watch them train, this is their workplace. It's not over the top. It's just sort of roll the sleeves up and sort of get to work. There's no fucking around. It's I'm not saying they're not having fun out there, but it's I didn't get a sense that they were sort of trying to put on a show for the fans. They were just going about their business. And from that point of view, it was really good. My only beef for the whole experience, because I feel like these open training sessions now are just an event, was the music. Like it was just fucking blaring for the whole time. And I was sitting up in the Legends stand, and maybe it was noisier up there, but it was just, could not hear the players at all. And I understand, like, play some music when the fans are coming in, they're sitting down, the players are warming up, and play some music, maybe play some music at the end. But the match scenarios and simulation, which they did a lot of, turn the fucking music down, turn it off. Let us hear the players out on the ground. Let us hear them talking. Man, like it was actually quite frustrating. So I didn't take any footage, probably because of that reason, because of just get stung for copyright. So what I'm going to do instead, guys, is just go through each player. And I was going to do this anyway, regardless of whether I was going to take any footage or not. So I'll start with Jack Silvani. He did the whole lot. Like, he looks super. Like, when I mean he looks super, he looks really toned and big and strong, running really well. I noticed him still running at the end when most were finished. It's almost like these boys are going to get like so many kilometres into their legs in certain sessions, because he was kept checking his watch, unless he was checking the time, because maybe he was going to Adam Chera's wedding. He was just checking the time. I'm not quite sure. I think he was checking his GPS, because they have to get a certain amount of kilometres. But I was watching him running by himself at the end, and he looks strong. And I think I don't know. I just get the impression with Jack that I think he's really excited about that opportunity to play down back. And we just have to wait and see whether that's going to work or not. I think he'd be okay down there, but I don't know. My only concern with Jack down back is just maybe the lack of leg speed if he finds himself in someone who's quite nimble. So he looks good. Like, touch wood, he's well over that knee injury now because he had some sort of concerns with it coming back, but he looks really strong and trained accordingly. Lockie Cowan, I mean, talk about looking strong. I mean, this kid, like, he is like, it looks like he's raring to go. Third year, it's like he's had. I was thinking about this when I was driving home. It's like he's had this perfect preparation, a massive pre-season. We've only watched him twice at training, but all the reports are that he's sort of flying. I'm pretty excited about him, but also at the same time a little bit weary of making any sort of bold predictions on players. But if you look at him, he's just like a thoroughbred. This kid, he's just like cut to ribbons and big and strong and fast and a little bit of quite aggressive as well. So pretty exciting looking at him, but just have to wait and see now. Practice matches will start the start of the season. Can he take his game to another level? Because that's probably what we need from someone like Lockie Cowan. At the moment he showed some good signs, but like coming into the third year now, can he take that next step? That's the big question on him. But he looks fucking incredible in regards to his physique. Motlop's flying. Like, he looks good. He looks fit. I know I've been pretty positive for the first three players, but he looks so fit, quick, bouncy, involved, looks really happy. Really impressive. That's twice now. The two training sessions that I've been to, that he's been one of the more impressive players out on the track. Ollie Hollins, just exuberant as always. A couple of times, he sort of coughed it up. I noticed with Ollie, he wants to take it on sometimes, and then he panics and he gives the ball off to people in poor positions. It's something he needs to get out of his game. But when they were doing the running at the end, him and Binns were just like going head to head out the front, and they're just like fucking incredible, those two, in regards to their running power and endurance. And he's a little bit like, I suppose, Lockie Cowan coming into his third year. He's probably shown a little bit more in Cowan in regards to consistency at AFL level. Plays a different position, obviously, but yeah, you like to think that he could take his game to another level. Whether that is going to be this year, it's like wait and see with these third, fourth year players. We need them to really step up. Which one is it going to be? But he's training really well. Adam Sherrill wasn't there. When we saw he wasn't there, it was like, fuck, what's wrong with him? But reports came through that yesterday he was getting married. Zach Williams, he's another one. Like, it's almost like the first time since he's been at the club, he's just done everything. Like, it feels like he's done everything. There's no reports on him being sore. He looked good out there playing forward. I didn't feel like he dominated in match simulation or anything, but he just, I don't know. He's another one that's just like, okay, he's fit. He's probably the fittest he's been since he's been at the football club, but he's going to be super important for us. But he needs to be staying on the park. I know I didn't want to get too carried away with any players, but Jagger Smith's a freak. I'm just going to say it right here, right now. He's playing every game. If his body is able and he's not injured, I know I've said this before. I think the expectations from my point of view with what we did to get that pick number 3, because we thought that he was the best player in this draft. What I saw yesterday at training, and it is training, he's a very, very special young player, and I think we should be really excited about what he's going to offer this midfield. It's bloody exciting. He's in everything. He wants to be in everything. He's confident in a good way. He's not like arrogant confidence, but he wants the ball in his hands. He's got a great sidestep, uses the ball really well. He's working close. Probably going to be more outside, which we need, in the first couple of years, but he can win his own footy as well. And the comparisons with Nick Dacos, and at this stage, from a Coates Talent League point of view, coming into his first season, now he hasn't even played a game yet. So, I need to maybe cool the jets a little bit. But the comparisons with Nick Dacos are sort of, they're there in regards to the way they sort of play. Whether he can get to that level that quickly, who knows? But he's playing every game this year, guys. There's no doubt about that. Fogarty looks good. He played actually quite a bit through the middle of the ground in the match sim. Obviously, he's going to be playing that high half-forward role coming up the stoppages, but he was actually playing as a genuine mid. That was because it's match sim, so you need two teams, you need more numbers through the middle. Big problem with Foggy is his kicking, I'm not saying he's a poor kick, he just hasn't got any penetration in his kick, so he's not damaging, but he's a real goer. We know that, trained well, looks fit. Same with Cripper, he looks chiseled, looks strong, doing his stuff in the match sim with Jagger Smith was good to see, because obviously Sam Walsh wasn't part of that match sim yesterday. Big Harry, wow. I remember a few times, guys, more than a few times, I've been critical of Harry because of his lack of, I shouldn't say lack of. Fuck it. I'm just going to say his lack of real aggression for a big bloke. And it's not running around and being a cockhead, and doing anything untoward, but just that bit of mongrel. Starting to see it, I think. He was up against Lewis Young, who's not the most physical player, but he gets a bit niggly, Lewis Young. He can get a bit niggly, but they were having a bit of argy-bargy out there, and I liked it. He's an imposing figure at the moment, Big Harry. An imposing figure. He seems to be marking everything, kicking well. And I know he had those comments, guys, about, was it something along the lines of, you shouldn't be judged by winning premierships? Did he say that recently in an interview and people went, oh, you can't fucking say that? There's no doubt that, he's primed for a big year, and you need a big year out of him. You just need a big year out of your stars. But it's the aggression that this guy needs to get into his game. Is it in his nature? Maybe not. But I've always compared him to maybe a Tom Lynch at Richmond, because we don't necessarily want Harry to be universally liked. Universally, get that out. Universally liked. Oh, Harry's a nice guy. I'd much prefer opposition supporters going, he's a prick. This fucking Harry. He's a dog. You know what I mean? But he's kicking bags and he's having a huge impact physically. A bit like Tom Lynch. It's just. Anyway, that's my thought on Harry coming into the season. He looks magnificent, and so does Mitch McGovern. I thought he trained the house down yesterday. I really did. He did everything. It's the first time I've seen him do everything at a training session. Generally, he's off, maybe doing his own stuff for a little while, but he did everything down back. And I say he's such an important player for us. Has he been? Have we got bang for buck from Mitch McGovern since he arrived across from Adelaide? No, we haven't. Has he started to show something playing down back? Yes, he has. His ball use is super. And he's at that age where he's smart. and he looks, when he came to the club, he looked a bit fat, yeah? And then he lost all that weight. Then he looks skinny and frail and white and pasty. He's still white and pasty, but he looks toned now. You know, he looks toned. He looks like an AFL footballer. Is he at that age now where he's going, I know he's a dad and stuff, is he at that age now where he's going, fuck it? It's not necessarily now or never, but the next year or two, year or three, my time in the game is going to finish. But that's the way he's presenting at the moment. TDK took a big mark in the match sim, dropped a few, a little bit rusty, went up against Pitt, really good tussle in the hit-outs, rucking around the ground. I felt like, just watching him in this session, that he was, particularly at the ground ball gets, and the follow-up work at ground level where he's so good, that he was in second gear. Not saying he wasn't, he was just loafing around or strolling. I just felt like he can take his game, which he will, to another level with those ground ball gets and the follow-up work. But leaping, launching at the ball, his spring looked really good. Akers, good to see him back. You know, that shoulder injury, all that type of stuff. There's a few concerns over his body. He'll have one of the wings. There's no doubt about that. That's where they positioned him in this training session. My biggest tick, guys, and you're going to be probably surprised here, and I'm quite happy to eat humble pie if it works or if he actually explodes and has a really good year, is Orazio Fantasia. It's training. I know it's training, but he looks super light on his feet. He's covering the ground with speed. His defensive work was good. He ran down Billy Wilson at one stage. He looks... his kicking was good. He was getting involved in chains of play, pushing up the ground. I've got him. I don't have him ranked in the mid-30s on my list the other day. Based on what I saw at training yesterday, he's out of contract at the end of this year. Don't know. All I can say is the way he's moving, and he's moving really well. So that's all I'm going to say. And as I said, I'm quite happy to eat humble pie if he can turn that around, because I thought he was pretty poor last year. Same with Doc, travelling really well after what he went through last year. So, yep, I think those experienced players are going to be really important. Rolled through the midfield a lot in this training session. Doherty, no back, time for him. With Newman down, there's a train of thought that maybe Doherty will go back. Maybe he will in time, but in this session, he was doing most of his work through the middle of the ground. Ben Camporelli, not there, saw him on crutches, standing over near the gardener stand. Could just see a guy over there on crutches. Then as we got closer, it was Ben Camporelli. So I'm not quite sure, he rolled an ankle. So he didn't train. There was a guy running around in the number 16, which became a little bit confusing, but straight away I knew that wasn't Ben Camporelli, it was some guy from the VFL. So I don't know the reports on Ben Camporelli's injury, but he was on crutches, which is not great. Kemp, another one, needs to take his game to another level. I didn't think, and I don't know how we want to structure up with him, because obviously it's going to be a third tall in our front half, and that's where he was playing. But there was no Charlie in the match sim, so it was just pretty much Harry and Kemp. I don't think we'll structure up that way. I think he's going to be used as that third tall always. So who that will be if Charlie doesn't play, I'm not quite sure. I didn't see a lot from Brodie Kemp in this training session. It didn't stand out to me going, wow, he's looking the goods. But I have heard that he's going to be playing more of a defensive third tall role, That's some of the planning for him, not always to sort of go to third tall. Anyway, Sam Walsh didn't join in the main group, the main training session, but did a lot of skill work away with the 5 or 6 VFL players that were there training. And I reckon he did, from the time he got out onto the field running away from the group, like doing strides back and forward, 200-metre strides, the sort of skill work he was doing with the VFL boys and other running, I reckon he would have clocked up. Because it felt like he didn't stop. I reckon he would have clocked up anywhere between 15 and 20 kilometres. And maybe, I think that may have been the plan for him. So he's moving well, but, like, they're going to play it very, very cautious with Sam Walsh, I would say, given, the recent sort of history now, back, hamstring. They want to get some real conditioning into him before they sort of let him off the leash. That's not, yeah. But he just ran and didn't stop. So that was the plan for him. Durden was forward, got that shoulder taped. And I think, thinking about Corey Durden, it's, for me, when he's playing his best football is when he's pushing up the ground, but also he's tackling pressure. My only concern with Corey Durden is, because I don't think he's going to be a dynamic small forward. It's all about, we need that pressure forward if he's going to play. And is that shoulder, it's obviously he's right to go, but shoulder injuries and tackling, is there a confidence thing with him? Because we need those manic small forwards who can apply, because if he's not kicking goals, he needs to be applying that pressure. Because he has got power and he has got speed. But it's good to see him out there, because he did have that shoulder concern for a period of time. The quietest I've seen Elijah Hollins. I did not notice him a lot. He was out there, did not notice him a lot in the match sim. Really liked the way he goes about it. Noticed him in the running they did at the end of the training, because he was right up the front with his brother and Jackson Binns. Those Hollins boys are freaks when it comes to endurance running. But didn't notice him a lot in the match sim, which is not a huge deal. I would have thought. Lucas Camporelli trained. They were playing him a little bit. Obviously, he's a winger, but they were also playing him a little bit off half back, and he uses the ball quite well. He's the left footer, and he's actually, for his age, he's not a rake. Like, he's got some decent sort of muscles on him, but it's purely going to be a learning year for him. The same with Harry O'Farrell. Like, he's as skinny as a rake, and I've mentioned this before, and you look at his body, and it's not ready at all, and they understand that, because it's his first pre-season. I think they hold the first-year players back a little bit. When they were doing the running at the end, the first-year players, including Jagger Smith, they went off and did something else. So they are, I'm not saying they're all on a modified program as such, because they do all the training. Harry O'Farrell did all the training except the running at the end. So they look after them. So next year, he'll play a year in the VFL, and then the next year, hopefully we start to see some muscle on that frame, because unfortunately he's getting pushed around, unless he gets the ball by himself, uncontested marks and stuff. He's just not going to cut the mustard with the bigger bodies. Wiedering, the same. Like, he didn't do the running, Jacob Wiedering. So I don't know if they're sort of looking after him at the moment. So when the players all went and did the running at the end of training, and they did a fair bit, Wiedering took the young guys off to the side and they were doing something else. And that was the same at the start of training as well. He didn't do the running they were doing at the start of training, but he did everything in the match sim. I saw Nick Newman in the gym area. He had the big knee brace on, so he was there. I have slight concerns for Jackson Binns. I think it's a big year. It's a big year for all these guys coming into their third year. He's put on some good size. Like, you look at Jackson Binns, he was always really light framed, and he's put on some size, but it hasn't really stopped his running ability. But I don't know. I don't know about Jackson Binns. I just feel like he's still going to be a little bit on the outer this year. I think the preference will be obviously an Akers and a Doherty on wings, and he's going to have to really have a big couple of practice games and potentially one of those community games to put his name up in lights. Yeah, the two training sessions I've been to, he's trained okay, but he hasn't you're looking at Jackson Binns and going, fuck, this bloke's ready to rock and roll. It doesn't give me that impression at the moment. Nick Haynes did everything. I think, this is where it gets really interesting with Jack and who's going to be those big tall defenders. How many do we play in the one team? Obviously got Wiedering, McGovern. I think Haynes is going to play. So where does Jack fit into that mix? Not quite sure, but Haynes is going okay for a veteran, and his body's holding up. Pitnet, I reckon he trained okay. He looks like he's lost a little bit of weight, him and TDK, which is good. They've got this big, rangy Flynn Riley on the sidelines from the VFL. He's around 220 centimetres. No, he's not that tall. And he's been joining in match sim, I've noticed, down at Latrobe, the big rangy guy. But he actually just trained with the VFL boys off to the side this time around. It was pretty much just in the ruck, in all the match scenarios. It was just TDK versus Pitnet. Make of that what you will. I got no idea whether we're going to play both of them. It might come down to whether Charlie's ready to go for the start of the season. Okay? So that's it. Harry Charlton. He's the kid we picked up in the rookie draft from Ballarat. I think he's St. Pat's out of the GWV Rebels. Now, I bumped into Andrew Lake, who's got a Facebook page, Carlton Facebook page, and lovely guy. It's great to meet you, Andrew. And we were speaking about Harry Charlton, and Andrew said to me, he reminds me of Chad Warner. And as soon as I looked back at Harry Charlton, I went, fuck, he is from a distance, he is a splitting image of Chad Warner. Not just a splitting image of his body shape, but his swagger, the way he moves, everything about him. I mean, obviously the ability, he shows a fair bit, this kid, he does. There's something really likeable about Harry Charlton. He's energetic, wants to get his hands on the footy, a little bit cheeky, but he's got this swagger. I don't know if it's an attitude swagger, it's just the gait and the way he moves, but he's a fucking clone of Chad Warner, and if he can be half as good as Chad Warner, look out. But it could be a bit of a surprise packet, Harry Charlton, because he's got some confidence about him. It's sort of like what I see from the kid at training. George Hewitt, looking good, looking really fit, just fit. He's not the best runner. It's funny actually, and I noticed this at other sessions as well with George Hewitt. When they start to do the endurance running at the end, you got the usual suspects. So what they do, guys, is they split it up into two groups. You got the key position type players, one group on one side of the ground, and then all your mids and your halfback flankers, your high half forwards, wingers, etc. They do the running together, which makes sense, and obviously Hewitt's part of the midfield group, but he's always at the back. He's fucking always at the back. He's just such an old-fashioned footballer. So I don't think covering the ground continuously for him is his strong suit. But whether the likes of George Hewitt in time for us, this year, next year for a grand final, potentially are going to be good enough. We're just going to have to wait and see. But he looks strong. Charlie, he sent a scare, obviously. I saw it was exactly 10:29 that he left the track. He was doing everything. He started in the little rehab group, then he joined in training, then he did some match scenario stuff. He took a nice mark where he pushed, I think it was Denver Granger Brash out of the way, took a mark, kicked the goal around his body. And then I said to Andrew Lake, who was sitting just behind me, I said, look, there's Charlie going up towards the rooms, and he was being sort of escorted up by a trainer. But all reports are that he went off for scans and they're okay. Harry Lemmy, this is a bloody interesting one, guys, because there could be an opening for him early in the season. Like, it's going to be based on form, but if Charlie's not quite right, like, does he get an opportunity? He's an old-fashioned workhorse centre forward. He loves to lead up the ground on long leads, and he did this in the match sim. I would like to see him, obviously, that would, if he was working in tandem with a Harry, that would be his role. But I think for him, what I would like to see, and I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen it. What I've seen is him getting separation from his direct opponent and creating that option, getting up the ground. Not necessarily contested marks, a lot of uncontested marks. He uses the ball really well, covers the ground okay, but he's not super quick, but he just covers the ground okay for a big guy. I need to see, before I make any judgments on Harry Lemmy, I want to see him take contested marks because I haven't seen that yet. And at 200 centimetres, he can play second ruck, but I'd like to see him clunk a few above his head in a contested situation. Haven't seen that yet from him, so I'm just holding it on Harry Lemmy. Didn't see Matthew Carroll at all. Now, that was disappointing because there was a lot of hype around him getting back onto the list. He just wasn't there. So don't know what happened to Matthew Carroll. Lewis Young went head-to-head with Harry for most of the match sim, and they were going at it, like being quite physical towards each other, which was okay. We know Lewis Young. We know his limitations. Turned the ball over a couple of times, slow to get the ball moving. But he is what he is. And given his size, given maybe a lack of big, bulking defenders, he still has a role to play. Maybe not every week. Rob Monaghan, the young Irishman, started in the rehab group, and that's where he stayed. Did a lot of running. What I noticed about Monaghan, and I don't think he'll make it, but I'd love to be proven wrong, is he's stripped down a fair bit. He's lost a bit of that bulk. He's a quick player with a little bit of power, so he's lost some weight. And I was trying to recognise him at the start. I'm going, fuck, who's that? Is that Monaghan? And then I saw the number, and he was running away from the group. Did a lot of running, but did not join in the main session. Billy Wilson, check notes on all the other players, all those second, third year players I've been speaking about. Looks ready to go. Looks ready to go. Can he take the next step? We need one or two of those guys to come in, I reckon. Like, we need like a surprise packet. Like, is it going to be Billy Wilson? Is it going to be Jackson Binns? There has to be someone coming up underneath. And looking at Wilson, he's put size on, he's had a perfect preparation, but is he going to be good enough? I don't know. I can't answer that right now. But based on the way he's presenting, he's ready to go. Like, he's ready to go. Same with Cooper Lord, ready to go. Looks strong. Done everything right in the preseason. But it's a solid midfield, and does he fit in? Is he going to be good enough? Has he got the leg speed? How many inside mids can you have? How many can you carry? So not quite sure on Cooper Lord at the moment for the start of the season, but he's not doing a lot wrong. Rolling from the midfield. I felt like he was playing quite a defensive role in that midfield sort of work. Jordan Boyd must be injured. He did run quite a bit, but did not join in the main group at all. So not quite sure what the status is, guys, with Jordan Boyd. But given, I reckon, the last year or so, he's had some injuries. Feet. I remember a foot injury. So maybe he's been modified at the moment. Saw Alex Chincotta. Now, there were reports that he was getting ready to maybe start running and getting back involved, but he didn't even come out of the rooms, and we did see him in the weights room after training. So he didn't come out at all to join any type of rehab on the ground. Same with Hudson O'Keefe. He just ran, did not join in training, just ran the whole time. Seemed to be moving okay, but did not join in training, as in the skill work. The big guy, like, put on a lot of size. And he's another one who just had that that wretched hamstring injury last year. So, yeah, but he was running. Didn't look to be major concerns with him. Matt Duffy, the guy who had that serious knee injury, the Irishman, he's a mile off. Like, he's fast, he looks quite powerful, but he's just a mile off. He's a big boy. Like, he'd be 190, maybe 193. They were using him defensively, trying to get him that defensive craft. Physically, athletically, looks okay. A little bit Jaime-like. You know Jaime from Get Smart? He's a little bit robotic. Like a little bit robotic. But good to see him out there, like he did just about everything. This time last year, I think he was gone with his ACL. Sard, typical Adam Sard, did what he did in the back half. Can't really complain about, Adam Sard. And I'm just going to say with Ashton Moyer, he's just another one, second-year player that looks superb. Body, man, like the size of Ashton Moyer. Like, he has put some serious sort of size on around his shoulders and his legs. And I don't know, like, is he going to be good enough this year to say, okay, I want that third tall role. I want that bloke that can get up the ground and be really dangerous. I don't know. I don't know, guys. But based on what I'm seeing at training, based on the preparation, with a lot of these young blokes, it's just been perfect for him. Matthew Cottrell, good to see him back. And there's another one on the wing that's going to make it really hard for Jackson Binns, because that's where he played. It was Cottrell v. Binns. And I must admit, I thought Cottrell had the better of him. Had more of the ball, more of an impact. So that's where I think it's going to be difficult for Jackson Binns at the start of the year. Yeah. Okay, so that's where I see it. All right, quickly on the train on players. And this is to finish off. I know this is a long video, guys. It's coming up to 37 minutes. Stop talking. Okay. All right, this is the way I see it. What the fuck am I trying to say? I had a big night last night. I caught up with some friends, man. Like, red wine. What's his name? Sam Durden's gone. Like, he was trying to get back on the list, but Carlton. And I don't even know. We've got 43 players at the moment. Will we take? I feel like we will. I feel like an announcement's going to happen shortly with the next player, because I feel like we're going to take 44 players. We have to. With Chincotta not available and Newman gone, we're going to have to take another player. Is anyone like out there really jumping up? And I looked at it and go, fuck, we've got to get this bloke onto the list. No. And I think it will be a 44th player. That's the feeling I'm getting. So these are the guys. So Durden's gone. Denver Granger Barras, the former Hawk, the former top 10 draft pick. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And I'm now, when he first came across as a train-on player, Hawthorn supporters, and they were being respectful, we're just saying that he's just not sort of good enough. Like, it was just a bad pick. It was the COVID pick, where you just took a punt on some of these guys. He's a double grabber. He's just he's not big and bulking enough to be. And he's a grappler. I feel like he's a bit of a grappler. I'd be surprised. He did the whole session, looked like he hurt his leg at one stage. I'd be surprised if it's Denver Granger Barras. I really would. The other one's Ethan Phillips. Now, the difference between Denver Granger Barras and Ethan Phillips is Ethan Phillips, they're both at Hawthorn. Now, Ethan Phillips, he's signed with our VFL team. He's already committed to play VFL football. He only trained half and half. So he trained with the VFL boys. There were about 6 of them training together. And then he'd come on and join in Matt Sim for a little bit of time as well. He probably looks a better prospect than Denver Granger Barras, but not great. Not great. Just a serviceable type down back. So they're the 2 defenders. I'd be surprised, really surprised if one of the guys gets the 44th position. I think it comes down to 2 players. And these are the 2 players, I think. Liam McMahon, who was the leading goal kicker in our VFL team last year. He has been for the last 2 years. Came across from Collingwood where he didn't play a game. He's really put on some size and looks strong. There's part of me that thinks he probably deserves a chance. And given just the question marks a little bit on Charlie, and I don't know, and he could even potentially, like, he could, because he's a tallish type, good kick. It's either him and a real smoky is a youngster. He must be 21, 22, so it's not really young, is Will White. Lively, small forward, a little bit one-sided, but he's been super impressive. And what I've seen in the two open training sessions that I've been to, so much so he's showing a lot. And the interesting thing about yesterday's training session, guys, with Will White. Now, he's committed to our VFL team as well. He was third in the best and fairest last year, 23 goals. South Mournival kid, played for the GWV Rebels. He's not tall, he's small. He's really lively. He trained the whole session with our senior players. He did not join the VFL boys at all. So there's my pick. I think it's out of Will White and Liam McMahon. That's my pick. And I'm probably going to go Liam McMahon because I feel like he deserves an opportunity, but it's not, I don't know. I don't think it comes down to just, let's give it to Liam McMahon because he deserves it. If we need him, okay, that's to be good enough. If they believe he's good enough to get onto an AFL list, because we feel like we could use Liam McMahon, not based on the fact that he's been super consistent and he deserves an opportunity, or Will White. But do we need another small forward? Not quite sure, but he's been super impressive in the sessions that I've watched. That's about it, guys. I've covered every player, and that is 42 minutes long. Feel free to add, if you were there at training, feel free to add your observations, and we will chat again really soon. And apologies for talking too long. Stop talking.